Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Lutando Tamsangam. I am a disciplinarian that inspires one to never veer from their cause. I globally help and assist mankind in maintaining and increasing stamina to perpetuate, regardless of the odds, towards the fixed end goal. Probably by now you might be noticing that my background has changed from my first two videos, and I want to start by reading Genesis 12 verse 1. The Lord said to Abraham, "Leave your country, your relatives, and your father's home, and go to a land that I'm going to show you. I will give you many descendants, and they will become a great nation. I will bless you and make your name famous, so that you will become a blessing." And then I'm going to also read Joshua 1 verse 9. "Be strong and courageous, for the Lord your God will be with you wherever you go." Welcome to my YouTube channel. Notice something about Abraham's calling before he could become a blessing to the nation. He had to leave the room his family was standing in. And my first two videos, I had my family on the background. It was not just warm framing, that was commissioning. That was me saying that I am starting, or perhaps I'm forming the blessing, and now the blessing is being released. One truth is that alone on the camera is not alone on the journey. I have you guys, my subscribers, followers, and the likes. I don't like these words. They adorable. The blessing was always headed outward. God didn't bless Abraham so he can have a comfortable household. He blessed him so he could reach people who'd never met his family. My family standing behind me in my first two videos was a blessing being formed. And now that I'm alone, the blessing is being received. Surely, Matthew 28 verse 20. "Surely I am with you always to the very end, says the Lord." And I would like to send my deepest condolences to Jaden Adams and his family, together with Lu Kobo Bibo Makweding. A quick moment of silence for them. May their souls continue resting in peace. Now, you see a massive construction site, a new mall, they're building a bridge, and you're thinking to yourself, one day the government was sitting there and they thought, oh, let's build a road, and then they called a guy with a bike and they're like, can you come build this bridge for us, or this school for us? And the guy came, picked shovel and started working. Definitely that's not true. Before the first spade hits the ground, there is a hidden war of paperwork, pricing, legal compliance that takes months and sometimes years. In our last video, we answered as to why tenders exist, and today we are pulling back the curtain on the entire life cycle, from the moment the client sees a need to build the bridge, to patch the potholes, to the moment the contractor gets the letter of award. By the end of this video, you won't just know what a tender is. You'll know exactly how the game is played. Let's get into it. I want, by the end of this video, you to know who the client is, who the consultants are, who the contractors are, what or where do tenders come from, what documents get issued, how contractors submit bids, how evaluation happens, how a winner is selected, and what happens after award. So everything starts with a problem. Tenders, they don't just appear out of thin air. Every single tender starts with a problem. The Department of Education sees that we're short of classrooms. There's kids who studies under the tree. The municipality sees the road, they're having a lot of potholes. ESCOM needs a new substation to keep the lights on and eradicate load shedding. The client, who ever holds the budget, identifies a need. So tenders emanate from a need. But here's the catch. The government, they are not builders, so they need to now get experts that can build the drawing, that can build the actual classrooms that are missing. So, and that brings us to the next step, to ask or answer the question who the client is. Before we go further, we need to understand that the government, or perhaps Sandral, your ESCOM and the likes, they are clients. However, a client is the person that pays the bills in a project. So clients, they usually fall into two categories. You have your public sector, which is your government, your what you call your SOEs. So this is National Development Departments, Sandral, ESCOM, Transnet, municipalities, ESCOM, and because for the public sector, they're using public funds. So they must adhere to the Preferential Procurement Policy Framework Act and Public Finance Policy Framework, Municipal Finance Policy Framework, and the likes. And there's a lot of red tape when it comes to public sector clients, but there are a lot of opportunities. Then you have your private sector. These are your shopping mall developers, your mining houses, your big factories. They use their own money, so they move faster and they are more flexible. And why does this distinction matter? Because knowing who the client is tells you how a tender will run. A municipal tender, or perhaps a public sector tender, is more of a marathon, and a private sector or private tender is a sprint. The difference is speed. The consultants, who are the consultants? The let me put it in brackets, the design team. Here is where the magic happens. Now the client doesn't know how to build the school. We'll use the school and building of classrooms. So they need to hire professionals, usually an architect, an engineer, to design the solution. So the team usually looks like the architect. They make it look good and function well. The engineers, be it your civil engineer, electrical engineer, mechanical engineer, mechatronics engineer, or whatever, they make sure that the school won't fall and the doors work, everything is functioning. Then you get the quantity surveyor. We are the financial corps. We measure the drawings, we predict the costs, and we prepare the budget. These consultants, they draw up the plans. Like the architect will do the drawings. They write the specifications, and critically they compile the tender documents. So now the tender documents are compiled and they there. The next question should be, the tender documents, which is the Bible. Now, let's get to the monster, the tender documents. This is the instruction manual contractors have to follow. So, what are the tender documents? One, or what you see the stack of tender document, you ask yourself, what exactly is inside the tender document? So number one is invitation and conditions. We use ITT. We say it's ITT. So these ones, they are rules of how the game is played, how to apply, deadline, closing dates, and where to submit. Be it, do you submit physically or do you submit on e-portals? Then you have your scope and specifications. What exactly is the client buying? What kind of bricks? What kind of class? What kind of desks do they want in this classroom, and so forth. Then you get your drawings. This is the visual representation of the classrooms that we are going to build. This is the map of the project. And then you get your BOQ, the pricing schedule. This is a spreadsheet that tells the contractor how many bricks of cement how many bricks, how many bags of cement, how many pipes are estimated. And then you get your legal forms, which is tax clearance, your CIPD registration, your central supplier database, your CSD report. And if you miss a signature here, you are out. And now let's get to a point where the contractor receives the tender. Now, the documents are ready. Where do the contractors find them? In South Africa, particularly, contractors find tender documents, one on e-portal, municipal websites, or private procurement platforms. So this is where your SA tenders come in, e-tenders, tender alerts, and so forth. Now the contractor gets the tender and they have a meeting. In the meeting that they are having, they look at one, the CIPD grading. Is it a CE, general building, ME, and so forth? And are they actually registered for the job? The second thing they do is check, do we have experience of building a house? Sometimes you have built a house of a person and you can now say, I can be able to build these classrooms because I have experience in building a house. And the third one is cash flow. Can we afford to wait 30 or 60 days for the payment while we build or we buy materials? And the last one is risk. I think I'm not doing justice in the tender documents perspective, and I'll sway a little bit and just dive deep. I'm carried away now. I will use the structure of ESCOM so that, because these tender documents, they actually, it's the client saying, this is exactly what I want. Show me how you can do it. Deliver this, exactly this. So I will use how ESCOM have their documents. I think that one will assist us in leaps and bounds. This is where you get your SBD, standard bidding documents, or perhaps if it's municipalities, they will call it MBDs. So municipal bidding documents. Why bona? So the first part is the commercial side, which is the form of offer and acceptance, the contract data, the pricing data, CIPD registration, CIPC registration, tax clearance, and what is pay as you earn questionnaire. You get your supplier declaration of interest, you get your triple PEE certificate or your SON affidavit. Yes. So when it comes to the standard bidding documents, you have SPT1, which is the invitation to bid. This one is where the client, this is where you give the client the details of the company, information about your company, and the total bidding price. Then you have your SBD series, 3.1, 3.2, 3.3, and then that is the pricing schedule. Then you have your SPD4, which is the bidder's disclosure. This one is it's you giving the client confidence that like, for instance, if it's my company, it's me saying that to the client that, hey man, if I'm bidding at Eskom, I know no one there at Eskom, to avoid corruption and collusion. Then you have your SPT 6.1, which is your local content declaration. It's you saying we're going to give back to the community. It's actually you giving the client confidence that you are going to support local growth and local reinvestment. So this is you giving the client confidence that you are going to you are giving it's actually a way of giving back to the South African economy. Then you have your SPT 7, which is your contract forms, where you, okay, these are your contract forms, SPT 7. Then you have your SPT 8, which is declaration of past supply chain practices. And then you have your SPT 9, certificate of independence bid. So this is to guarantee fair, and then I think the SPT 9 is for you telling the client that you didn't bench, like there was no price fixing whatsoever when you did your documents. Now we have we'll use this Eskom analogy so that we see which document gets in where. And we then have documents that are called SD, SLD, and I, which are your specific goals documentations. This is where you show or give the client confidence that you're going to use local content. What is your skills development plan? What is your job creation proposal? What is your subcontracting commitments? You know, because if you're going to work in a, let's say you are here, you get a job in KZN, you need to tell the client, I'm going to hire people from KZN, I'm going to give 30% of the project to the small, medium, and small SMMEs, that side. Then there's the quality side, you know, quality control plan, organizational chart, roles and responsibilities within the organization, the organization's quality policy and inspection and test plan, you see. Then there's the aspect of occupational health and safety / environment. This is your health and safety plan, your baseline risk assessment, your letter of good standing, called COIDA. And then you have your occupational health and safety policy and your environmental management plan. You see, those are the documents that you need to give the client. Then there's the technical side. The technical side, this is where you have your CVs, your method statements, your program, your resources, plant you are going to use, the people you are going to use as far as labor is concerned, histogram of the plant you are going to use, and the material that you are going to use. Then previous experience. This is where you substantiate to the client that, hey, I'm actually good at this, I can do this. And then design where required, you see. And now let's get to the quantity surveyor. Now you have all these documents. This is my favorite part, because this is where we get to make our money. The tender now is with the client, is with the contractor. The contractor wants to bid and they come to us. This is what we do when we get the documents. All these documents that I have listed now are in my table. The first thing that I do when I get the documents is understand the scope. But I'll put it in 5 forms and then I will dive deep. The first one is we read every single page. We read every single page as quantity surveyors. I cannot stretch this enough. I look at the hidden risks. I look at the ambiguous clauses, onerous penalties. This is where you get to see what's hidden in all these documents that the client have given you. The second thing I do, I literally use a scale ruler. This is a scale ruler. And I calculate or perhaps measure the drawings. I literally take a scale ruler. I check the BOQ. I take quantity takeoff. And then from there, I check if the quantities that I'm taking are the same. They correlate with the ones that the client has given us on the BOQ. Many a time it's not. Then the third thing we do, I price the quantities. So you take the quantity times the rate, then you get the amount. It's you saying 1 brick, I'm going to charge you 10 rand, but in how we price a BOQ, it's per square meter, you see. So even it depends if the classroom is using 1 brick. So in 1 brick per square meter, you have like 52 bricks. And then if it's a cavity wall, yeah, well, depending even on the time, if it's a cavity wall, then it's 104 bricks per square meter, roughly. Yeah, well, and then there's mortar there. I think I don't want to go into that. Then we get subcontractor quotes. We don't do everything ourselves. So for, let's say, we are building this classroom, I need to understand the guy also who will put in the doors, how much will they charge me? The guy who is going to install the windows, how much they will charge me? The guy who is going to do the roof, how much they will charge me? Then I calculate overheads, project management, site, toilets, security, water, electricity, and all those hidden costs. Then I add profit. Hey, we ain't a charity. We need to make a margin. Now, because I am diving deep as to what the quantity surveyor does, and many a time people tend to think that when we are pricing a document, what happens is that we just get a quotation, and then after getting a quotation, we add a profit. No. How I personally price, I use the first principle pricing method, which one, it's let's go labor, plant, material, subcontractors, and then the direct preliminaries. Then people, equipment, plant and material, subcontracting. So when I go, I'm like labor. Labor, I need to know the wages, overtime, supervision, allowance, and statutory cost. So in South Africa, there's a minimum wage. You can't pay people, I think it's 32 rand per hour, you know. So you check those, the wages. You can even be like, okay, I'm paying a general worker, let's say 10,000 rand, and then you divide that 10,000 with 172 hours. Yeah, well, and then you will get the rate per hour. and then you build the rate depending on the profit and all of that. And then the second one is plant. Is the plant hired? Do we own it? You add fuel and the operator cost, and then the mobilization. Because many a time, if you hire plant, hey, you need to also check those low bed costs. Because you can, yes, get an excavator, then you find a guy who will say it's 10,000 rand just to take to deliver the excavator to your site. So you need to be careful. The third one is material, delivered cost and wastage. You need to also factor in the wastage. Wastage factor is usually 5 to 10%. Then subcontractors, which is quotes, as I did. So it's the quoted price, and then you add your management fees, usually 5 to 8% of the project. And then you have your direct preliminaries, which are the ones I listed: your toilets, your security, your water, and the likes. But in more videos, we'll dive deep as to exactly, I'll show you how I go about pricing. You see, I got carried away there. Now let's get to the moment of truth: tender submission. Submission day. Oh, this is where the adrenaline comes in. And in the olden days, when people are submitting tenders, you would find someone carrying the token. You go to that department, there will be like a depository. But now there's portals, about e-portals, where you can submit your tenders. However, these e-portals, you must be very careful. Don't wait until that last hour, then you think of uploading. Hey, I advise 3 hours or even earlier to when you start your submission. One thing about tender submissions: late is late. 1 second late, out. 10 seconds late, out. 1 minute late, out. 1 hour late, out. There's no room for being late at all. Once the deadline passes, the tenders are opened. If it's public opening, you can actually sit in the room and see your competitor's price on the projector screen. It's the most stressful meeting you will ever attend. Do not be late. Late is late. I want to reiterate: do not be late when submitting a tender. Even if you are the cheapest, even if you had the best proposal, when you are late, everything was frivolous. You are not even going to be considered. So now let's get to evaluation. How they pick the winner. So tenders are in. How does the client decide who wins? So in South Africa, we use a specific evaluation system. It's not just the cheapest price. It's a point system. Point system, you will see it's written 80-20, and then sometimes it's written 90-10. So what is the difference between an 80-20 and a 90-10 point system for evaluating tenders? 80-20. Okay, the first thing is that the 80 points are allocated for price, and the 20 is for broad-based black economic empowerment goals and transformation, triple BEE. And then your 90 are like the 90 points goes for pricing, and the 10 points goes for triple BEE or your specific goals. Now, when do we use 80-20 and when do we use 90-10? For 80-20, it should be for tenders less than 50 million rands. And then for 90-10, it's for tenders exceeding 50 million rand. But sometimes it's the client who can pick, hey, let's use this point system, or let's use this one. But the standard is above 50 million, it's 90-10. Below 50 million rand, it's 80-20 point system. So now the tenders are there, they are in. How do they evaluate? The first one is the administrative compliance. Are your forms signed? Are they initialized? Is every tender there? If you fail here, you are out. If there's no initial in one page, you are out. If you didn't, there's no signature where there needed to be a signature, you are out. And then stage 2 is the functionality. This is where they check your CVs, your method statements. Do you have the right experience? They usually score this out of 100. And then they have what you call a threshold. Usually it's 70%. And then the third one is price and preference point. Now they look at your price, and then they also check your triple PEE status. Do you have so that point is out of 10 if you're using the 90-10 system, and then it will be out of 20 if you're using the 80-20 system. So, but I like how Eskom evaluates, so that I make it they use. I'm making an example ka Eskom. Stage 1 is administrative compliance. This is where they check your CIPC, your tax and the likes. Check your signatures, initials and everything. The second thing is eligibility. The next stage is what you call technical evaluation. This is where they check your CVs, your plant and the likes. Then they give you points, usually out of 100, then it's 70%. Then it's stage 4, price, which is the 80%, the 80 points now, or the 90 points, depending on which system you are using. And for price, I also want to say the cheapest is not the best, Then stage 5 is the specific goals. That's how the evaluation happens. Then we have what you call you can have the cheapest price, but if your functionality is terrible, you lose. The client wants value for money, not just the lowest risk. So it's straightforward. You see, it doesn't help saying you do something for 2 million, and then when I read your method statements, I don't even understand if you're going to do it. And then let's say you put CVs there, man, these people are straight from university. They don't have experience. They will build it, mara. Hey, I so there's also those factors. Now, the next stage after that evaluation process, there's the letter of award. Months of work, the sleepless nights, countless calculations. The client finally issues the letter of award. Oh my God. You see, the letter of award is like, once you get that thing, you get happy. So, but the work is not over. Now the contractor, you need to sign. So what happens is that the client, before the client even tells there's one winner. Okay, if the tender wants one, but if there is a panel, maybe they want 5 or 10 depending. But the client will then, after they give you the letter of award, you need to, as a contractor, sign the final contract, be it your NEC, GCC, FIDIC, JBCC, and so forth. Put insurance and performance guarantees, usually around 10%, and then submit the final construction program. But now, if the client says, okay, Lutando, we are awarding you this tender, they will give you the letter of award, and then they will give you a validity, sign within 3 days. If you don't sign, then they take the second best. Yeah, but once everything is signed, then they can send letters to the rest of the contractors to say, hey, sorry, refumane motho. Yeah, but and I doubt they even disclose who won the project, because hey, safety, and maybe that's where Poppy Act comes in. And then where every career fits in, you see, you're watching this video, you're like, I want to be part of the industry. So I just want to reiterate that to build that school, it takes a village. So that village goes something like the tender administrator keeps compliance files in order. The estimator or the quantity surveyor, so they work out the price, and then the bid manager, they lead the strategy. The engineer, they design the solution, and then the project manager makes sure it finishes on time. This is a role for everyone, you see, and there is a role for everyone. Whether you are in grade 12 or you have master's degree, this isn't just a construction site, it's a commercial system. I think there you have it. That's the tender process. Yeah, so now you will be able to know who the client is. Public sector, private sector, consultants. Who are the consultants? They are the ones you see even on site. There's usually the contractor's office, then the consultant's office. Usually the resident engineer is there. So the consultant, they represent the client, then the contractor who actually does the job. The contractor is GT6. Now you know where tenders come from. Starts with the problem, and then you understand all the tender documents that get issued, your SPD 1, SPD 3.1, 3.2, 3.3, which are your pricing schedules, your SPD 4, SPD 6.1, SPD 7, SPD 8, SPD 9, and so forth. How evaluation happens, administrative, technical evaluation, price, and specific goals. How a winner is selected. What happens after award? Let's answer that question. I think you get that award, you sign. Then there's a kick-off meeting, you see, and then there's a design verification. Now we're verifying the drawings and so forth, and then procurement starts, get material. Now only then you see the fencing go up, the site being established. Then you see, when you see a construction site, you must be like, now I understand how it got to this point. You see. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, until we meet again. And I just got carried away, man. Now I'll keep making more videos, but I'll try next time to be structured. But I can't help it but share with you. Please like this video, comment questions, subscribe, and make that notification bell. As we said, the first 10 videos we're not editing, we recording, one take, submitting, publishing. This is a reiteration that all you just need to do is start scraping. Start small, but think big.